Welcome to Q&A Selling Online, with answers to questions about creating an online empire, promoting products, or building a brand. Your host, private label and e-commerce entrepreneur, Quinn Amorm.
Welcome back, my friends. Today we have with us Yev Marusenko. He's Ph.D. and the founder of Zontracker. Yev, what's going on?
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk about a little bit of Amazon, Facebook ads, external marketing, ranking, a little bit of that.
That's perfect. So we talk a lot about Amazon and not enough about external traffic in Amazon or from Facebook to Amazon. So this is going to be perfect for a lot of the audience. So let's start from the beginning. All right. How'd you get into marketing?
So while I was doing all of my schooling, way too much schooling, my dad and my oldest brother had a business, a carpet cleaning business. So just like a local service in Phoenix area and just cleaning carpets. And I would help a little bit with Google, just like running some Google ads for my carpet clean, very basic. And I didn't know anything. I would just like set up keywords and let it run and give Google. And that's as far as that was. So that was happening for a few years, but I was focused on my schooling. That was for over 10 years. I was doing academia, science for way too long. And it was like a early midlife crisis of just trying to get out of academia, and then just got into business. Like as soon as made this like mental shift, we're like, all right, I'm done. I'm quitting academia. But it was after like years of thinking about it. And like that first week, I thought about the Amazon world where, like you could actually have your own brand. So I kind of like got into that. And this was around 5 years ago where I found out about it. And that's kind of like the beginning part of it.
Nice. So around 2015 or so, you did marketing for PL for a private label company. Is that correct?
So I tried to start my own brand. Like as soon as I found out, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm going online, registering a business license. I took action right away. And that was for about like 6 months. But I didn't know, like the timing was perfect. Like 2015, that was great. But I didn't know what I was doing. And I had about like 6 months before we had a baby on the way. And then my wife was like, all right, like you're like selling units per day. That's like what I kind of figured out, just like with random products. But it wasn't enough. I ended up getting a job for a marketing agency. And then they led from there, working with clients and then getting more into other Amazon brands. So then thinking about scaling marketing for other brands. And that's where my academic background started helping with and analysis and kind of like integrating different perspectives. And then that led into like the software world where I thought about there's so many brands out there, so many ways to optimize marketing and ways of connecting external marketing with Amazon. So then it turned into software, but basically being at a marketing agency of trying like a very small agency where like I was actually like the first hire. We were just trying to run ads and do like website optimization for brands in Seattle area.
You know, it's incredible that you just mentioned the software, which we're going to touch on. But for the longest time, years ago, some of the few tools that existed all did the same thing. They were the automatic email senders, right? Like Feedback Genius, Feedback Whiz, and amazing tools, by the way. But they were at that time very limited. And then other players start coming in. And now we see a ton of software out there. Most of them have a bunch of tools that do cool stuff. Others just one tool. But if you look at them, all do pretty much the same functions, right? Just in different dashboards, but you can get any tool almost. But you came up with some tools that, from what I know, they're different than anybody else. You don't have the same thing. They're completely different. And you're trying to get external traffic, which is one of my passions. So I guess let's start with the name of them. And it's two of them. Two tools do you have?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before getting to the tool, just a little bit on that. And I feel like this is very important in marketing right now, and especially for Amazon brands, is a part of the innovation or pushing the cutting edge. And how much do you do something that everybody else is doing that may have a level of success, but at what point does that stop? And you need to start testing different things. So I know for me, it's because of my background that was like, and a lot of Amazon sellers that I know, they have some sort of career shift or they think different. So I think people can relate to that. And for me, it was being in science and taking something from that like scientific experience where you have to like ask questions in a different way and try to connect different ideas. So I was always connecting different ideas. And I think that allowed me to, everything that I've been doing in business is marketing is how can I take one thing and connect it with something else? So before that I was in science, how I was solving different scientific kind of like different ecological problems that were happening. That was my research. So now it's how can you connect Facebook with Amazon? So you're connecting these different ideas. So then when I got into the software, it was basically, all right, like what's out there that I see like brands are doing, and I kind of like fell into it where it was our own problem we were having, where it was a brand that's like a popular brand, or it was like a growing brand, and didn't want to rely on just one channel. And we were at a successful crowdfunding campaign, and we were in retail stores, we were on Amazon, trying to build our own audience and kind of like diversify what a lot of brands are doing now. And the idea was, all right, how can we control our own audience? And it has to do with traffic and Facebook ads. So it was an internal problem we had. And then I realized that I was basically like managing the ads every day, all day. Like I was an ad manager, and knowing that, all right, running these ads, and we're seeing spikes in sales in Amazon. But like, how can we track that? How can we scale that? And try to automate that in different ways. So that's the first software. So that's Zontracker. It's all related to attribution and how can you know even better of like what your external marketing is doing.
And so Zontracker is the one that's going to give us the attribution, because until recently there was no attribution. I mean, years ago we could still run Facebook campaigns to our Amazon products, and then there was a lot of guessing if it was working or not due to volumes and visualizations. But there was other tricks that we could use, and it was creating affiliate links to our own products and then running ad to those affiliate links. And there was a bunch of trouble. And at the same time, it was not really according to TOS to run ads to your own affiliate links. So nowadays, there's actually something called Amazon Attribution. So we can see everything. If I have Zontracker, tell me exactly how it works. Can I see everything? Who my audience is, where they're coming from, almost like a pixel?
Yeah, sort of. So still like the attribution is not perfect, but the idea is that Zontracker, it's acting as this data warehouse where it's collecting all kinds of data that the seller has. So you can, and this is where each seller has a different level of how they're getting data and like what Amazon allows or not. So then you have to start thinking, all right, what do you do and what are you not allowed to do? Then like that question becomes common. But basically, it's like a data warehouse that it collects whatever data you want to integrate into it. We can talk about that, like what sources of data. It sends it all back to Facebook. So you're running an ad, and then somebody purchases, and you have to know like who purchased or like what ads led to the purchase. So you can do the Facebook best practices, turn off the ads that aren't working, scale the budget, increase budget on the ads that are working. So at some point you have to get that back in Facebook. So the idea is you're collecting this data from different sources, and then you see a column with Amazon sales, and you see exactly which ad led to the sale. And this is where the Facebook API comes in, kind of like getting like very technical engineering heavy, that Facebook is so smart, it's able to attribute exactly who saw that ad. And then when you send data back to it, knowing a purchase happened, ideally you have your own website with a Facebook pixel, and Facebook knows, so that data is sent back right away, right? Yeah. You can't put the Facebook pixel on Amazon. So then we're like doing all these workarounds where we're collecting data from different sources. It's sent back to Facebook. It's like matched different ways. And then you see that purchase data. And then you can get like really advanced on optimizing that data. You're actually choosing a conversion event in Facebook. Like you say, on purchase is the goal of like optimize more for that. So then you can a lot of like targeting stuff. This is where Amazon is like, oh, what are you doing? Like, are you contacting Amazon customers outside of Amazon? And it gets into, I think each seller decides for themselves, like, is that black hat, gray hat, white hat? Am I just improving the customer support for audience? Like you could do like certain things like that, but this is where Amazon is like, I think that's why they did a lot of API restrictions last year, because to like minimize brands communicating with customers outside of Amazon. So there's like different levels of functionality. That's different than attribution. Attribution is at the aggregate level across everyone that saw the ad. Like you don't see exactly the purchase. You just see like number one appeared, where like here's your ad, your $1,000 spent, and you see there's like 100 purchases or whatever the number is. So you kind of see that at the aggregate level.
So you're saying that I'll be able to see, I run my Facebook ad, and then I'll be able to see what the conversion rate is, number of impressions, and do I get to see who the audience is? Basically, what do I get from that? Was it male, around 30s? Do I get that kind of in-depth?
So the answer is mostly no to everything you said. A year ago, yes, and that's when even not even Amazon-based, like even Facebook would show you a lot more insights on the audiences. And then for all kinds of privacy data reasons, like even Facebook isn't showing that. So the only thing that's a yes to what you were saying is you see what ad led to the purchase. So like you have, whether it's 3 ad or 500 ads, if you're just like running so many different ads, you know exactly which one led to how many purchases. So that's pretty much as far as anything audience related. You never have information about who it is, which know data about your audience from other research or knowing your brand. So because as soon as if you're able to do that more in Facebook, then Amazon would be even more against. Like I think Amazon would then start forcing like brands like not to do that if Facebook kept that functionality where you could look at some of those insights based on your audience. You could do all kinds of things where you're like funneling the audience into like types of engagement, like with your Facebook assets, like your page or like your website, and you're looking at and like customer sites, like or audience sites, like more information about your audience or what they like you could do that, but that's like just a different phase of who the audience is. You don't know like exactly somebody purchased and it's this one person, it's Yev Marusenko that lives in Seattle, like that. So you can't do that. There are, however, workarounds that are actually not against Amazon TOS that are kind of like, I don't know if you call them like loopholes, but it's when you're deciding on who controls the audience. So if somebody buys on Amazon and you're pulling data from Amazon in different ways, like whatever you can, like just however you're getting that data, is that Amazon is going to say like that's our audience, and Amazon seller then decides, all right, I'm not going to go against data protection policies. I'm not going to do anything outside of Amazon with that audience. And some sellers might be like, I have to improve customer support. I bend the rules. Even Amazon may say it's breaking the rules. I'm going to bend it so I can customer support, leveraging Facebook ads or whatever. Or I'm going to send more customers to Amazon, like leveraging that data. So a lot of Amazon sellers can convince themselves that like it's okay to do that, and a lot of brands do that. But if you're running certain things like ManyChat and you're collecting information, or through landing pages, or like through your own website, you're collecting information from an Amazon customer, but you bring that customer like totally cold traffic from Facebook, and then you're asking them information about they buy on Amazon, what's information about the order, like you're asking them that, but you have more control of that audience because you didn't pull them in from Amazon. And I don't think Amazon has much say that like it's their audience because you pull that information from Amazon out to your ecosystem. Instead, you person it, you send them to Amazon to purchase, and still like originated from you as opposed to the other way. So then you could find out about like did they purchase on Amazon or not. And I think right now, like unless Amazon starts pushing in that direction and trying to enforce that, saying that all right, an Amazon seller is going against all kinds of like TOS or protections of doing that, but they haven't done anything like that in terms of like exactly what you're doing there. If you're asking for positive reviews only, and it's like pull Amazon asking positive reviews, and then some Amazon is going to be like, all right, rising reviews. So like don't be like spammy strategies, marketing strategies. But so there's all kinds of like lines of what's allowed or not, and then what's like the quality of data and what's more effective.
All right. I think we had a little bit of a slow connection there for a second, but
I saw that at the end there.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep on trying like that. All right. So tell me something. When you're getting that external traffic from Facebook, from Google, are you sending them cold traffic directly to Amazon? Are you gonna warm them up and maybe try to get them into your list first, or is this traffic going straight to Amazon directly to your listing? And if it goes to your listing, does it go with a super URL, supreme URL?
This is where, at least from my side perspective, because I see very like wide breadth of types of Amazon sellers on the scenarios that I see, it's actually it's not biased. How sometimes we see in like in Facebook groups or on like YouTube, where there's like only certain types of strategies talked about. So for me, I see much more diversity of strategies being used. So combination of what you said and even more. So what I mean by that is every Amazon seller should know of like what category fit in, not product category, but what is their goal of a smaller seller focused on Amazon. They want to get Amazon or even thinking about like scaling their own website. In a lot of those cases where sellers to send traffic to Amazon right away, but that's the hardest thing to do. That's where conversion rate is really, really low. You need a lot of testing. You need to spend like thousands of dollars on Facebook ads on creating and testing before you even increase the chance of conversion rate being higher from a social platform to Amazon. And there's a lot of brands that are on the opposite end, where all it focuses on is scale sales on their own website. So they fully leveraging Facebook Pixel, the Facebook traffic goes to their store, and then there's spillover sales, which is like 10 to 12%, just average brands that are then going to Amazon and buying anyway after they see the ad that's going to your website. This is Amazon sellers that are totally focused on their branding, their own website, their own audience building, and it's kind of like a bonus, like, oh, there's actually Amazon just happening as well. So let me keep track of that and know that I can put more money into my Facebook ads because those spillover sales are happening. So those are like the two extreme ends. And then in the middle is where you're basically extending the customer journey for that first scenario, where instead of traffic to Amazon, which is the hardest scenario, unless it's a very hot audience, it's like very warm audience, or they know your brand. If you send them to Amazon, they're more likely to purchase. But if it's a cold audience, those conversion rates are just terrible. They're under 0.1%. It's just like very bad. So you need to extend that customer journey, whether it's through a chatbot flow or some sort of content or email marketing on your own platform, and then send them to Amazon after you have some of that more touch points. So that's how you increase conversion rates. So that's where, depending on what you're doing, is going to be low or high conversion rates. And then if you're having like offer discounts or rebates, conversion will be higher, but your audience is going to be, the quality is going to be lower because they're price shopping or they're getting a product for free. So it may not be good sustainably, like for long term of your brand. And then Amazon may see that data where it's that buyer is just lower quality because of shopper it is. So then depending on what strategy you're doing there, you have to keep in mind, is it a low quality or a high quality buyer, the data that Amazon sees. So then you have to mix up those strategies, like depending on what your brand is. So we can talk about that next, but that's kind of like where there's the breadth, and each one has very specific conversion rate you're most likely going to get, and then the chance of success, meaning like what conversion rates are you going to get and quality of audience is it.
So until we were able to measure that, there were things that we would do. And for example, there's a lot of people, anybody can say whatever they want these days, but there's people out there saying that if you get external traffic and send it to Amazon, the conversion is going to be a lot lower than the traffic that you get from Amazon PPC. So you're actually going to be hurting yourself. And the truth is, if you send them directly to your listing without a super URL, it can't hurt, right? It can't hurt because Amazon loves external traffic. Now, if you send them if the customer doesn't perform a search, right? If the customer performs a search and doesn't convert, in that case, I'm thinking that's the one that can hurt. If I send them to a Supreme URL and they land on my page and they automatically, the search bar is filled with, a Bluetooth speaker, and they don't buy mine, now that could hurt me. But if they're just landing on my listing without a search performed, is that going to hurt me?
So this is where Amazon is so smart, and over time they get smarter and smarter. And even in the scenarios you described, you could always find exceptions where the opposite pattern works. And like why is that? Is it because Amazon is doing so well in some other marketing strategy, so then Amazon, like whatever this spike of data is, Amazon sees it as a good or bad thing, which is more of like an algorithm that this scenario has. So then we're gonna look at another scenario in a different way depending on what happens. It's just like there's just so much data that Amazon has. So in your specific example with traffic coming in, well then it depends what percentage of that data is relative to all other data that brand is producing. Meaning that if Amazon sees that there's just thousands of website visitors or tens of thousands of website visitors and sales coming in, single source, nothing else is happening for the brand, it's going to trigger something in Amazon data where just something is statistically significant, where that data source is different than another data source in amount of traffic that it produces. So for something to be natural, like let's say an example where like some influencer mentions a product somewhere. Now what's going to happen is that there'll be some traffic coming in, where like an influencer like shows a URL or just a link or even talks about it. Now it's going to be an influx of sales, but it's going to be diversified. Some people are going to Google it. Some are going to share it to or to Facebook, to other channels, it's all going to come from different places. So in terms of conversion rate getting hurt or not from say internal traffic, it depends on the other things that are happening. If it's going to be some like very strong signal that's very biased one way that's unnatural, and Amazon is going to know that, and they may like either de-rank you, or they're going to look at your following traffic to see was that a normal experience or not, or even that error, that variability, is it something that's normal? Because even some big brands might have some spike of sales from some local retail event or something that's happening, and that's actually normal to have the spikes. But then if it's constant spikes, if like some Amazon sellers are trying to take advantage of a strategy, then Amazon is going to like notice those spikes. So in terms of conversion rate, there's going to be other things that happen, like you said, where you send traffic to your, let's say, directly to your listing, and some people will buy, like some people will go into other parts of Amazon, and that's going to create this ripple effects of data that's coming in. So like you said at the beginning, external traffic for Amazon, right? Like, yes, of course. Like unless that traffic is doing something that's unnatural, that now Amazon is smart enough. Like over the past couple of years, like they're getting smarter, but do they implement it or not? So that's why now we see a lot more like case studies in Facebook groups and communication where people are like, all right, I did the same thing that someone else did, and it actually hurt my keyword rank, and someone else had helped. Well, like what were the regional effects? Was it mobile? Was it desktop? Was it because that spike was unnatural? Like, did you add
was
like
the audience too?
Yeah, like did you add Google and Pinterest and Facebook traffic in that spike directly to the listing, or was it unnatural that it was just some ManyChat like URL and that's it? So that's where like that diversification is becoming more important now.
So Yev, here's something that I probably never told anybody on the podcast. I can't remember if I did, but 14 years ago, I was banned from Google. I am not anymore, but I mean, I was young and I did, of course, some crazy things. Most people 14 years ago didn't even have an online business. But what I did was I was doing blogs, and I would get AdSense into my blogs. And then I created a traffic bot. And this traffic bot, all with different IPs and with different sources, right? So the source could be any other site. And this traffic would come all to my site, and they would all click on my ads. So basically, it was click fraud. That's in easy terms, that's what it was. I mean, I was a different person, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, that was 14 years ago, and Google banned me because they caught me pretty much in one day after my bot was launched. They caught me. Now the thing is, if I had pursued that, and then over the last 14 years developed that bot, or other people that have done so with, like diabolic traffic bots, they can create different sources and generate fake traffic to the listing, right? I know, like you said, not Walmart, but Amazon. Amazon is very smart and getting smarter, and they're one of the biggest e-commerce platforms on earth. So of course, they're going to have every kind of technology. But if undetected, do you think that would work? Just fake traffic sources? No, I'm not saying for people to do it.
Yeah. So like I would say, like, of course it would work, but then it's too, and then is it scalable or not? Because there's like these micro effects. Like anything you do in terms of sending traffic to Amazon, that like may be real or maybe not. So let's say it's some scenario where it's like some bots, or there's like just like something is like forced traffic into there, like it's still gonna have a real effect what's happening within Amazon, right? Like something is happening, whether it's interaction with the website or some sort of action. But at what point does that data become a stronger signal than the rest of the for that product or that brand, that traffic source? Then Amazon will easily know that even if it's coming from some traffic source that's like stimulated, Amazon is going to know that that Facebook source typically produces certain behavior or purchase on Amazon, or certain like lifetime value of that traffic source. So there's going to be signals from that traffic source, or that are associated with a brand. Let's say they all to like a certain being bought brand, or even like added to or whatever for a brand. It's like that data source. How does that compare to everything happening to that brand? Meaning that, are they running real PPC and getting sales? So it's kind of like diversified data, or like if that spike bot traffic is like a high percentage of the rest, To Amazon, it's just a very simple calculation in their algorithm that is like, oh, this percentage is higher than what we're expecting, even though like for some brands we may see that, but then it normalizes down, but we're still seeing that. So it's like, let's like algorithm there, and it's all automated, not like there's somebody sitting and looking at all of this data. There's ways where like you could do something like that, but is it going to be a short effect? Is it going to be like you're able to scale it, meaning for like hundreds or thousands of units being purchased per day and then doing that repeatedly over time? So there's a lot of things like that where you could try to be kind of like your example with like Google and trying like manipulate something for some ranking effect. So I think there's ways, and this is more of like a solution. You can try to think of kind of like bridging the two of having like a whether you want to call it like a real brand or controlling your audience or something that's like more authentic, or you have like control something versus being like very growth hacky. Like you can still do that, but leverage your own audience or Facebook ads in a way, in some sort of like not necessarily like bots automating some, but adding in some sort of automation for like your real audience, or whether it's your email marketing or traffic to be repurposed in some way that's like real. You know, it's like doing some sort of egg hunt in your chat flow or email marketing, where you're having people like take more steps for like whether it's high quality customers. So it's like you can like do some of these things that are going to have that effect, kind of that spiking effect, where like, oh, like I found a new URL, like some secret URL, so it's going to be like it's going to be working to a certain degree. Well, like it has to be diversified in other strategies for it to like not be noticeable to Amazon.
Gotcha. So how do we get from all of that into AMZjet? What is AMZjet?
Yeah, exactly. So first, it's the my other second stuff that's for measuring geo rank. How does rank vary regionally, and then some other metrics that are regional based, meaning that your rank, if you're looking at, you type in a word, dog food, and then you see the products that you have on Amazon that position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that it actually varies across depending the region where you're searching from. So regions like U.S. states. So every time we're talking about earlier is about behavior and algorithm. So it made me realize that even like I'm sure like from Google, like you know this, or from just general big websites that optimize like conversion rates, like that content, the website has to be very custom to the person visiting the site. So if it's someone that has certain behaviors or from certain regions, different like psychological factors of someone clicking some, taking certain action. So it just made me realize like Amazon has to be optimizing their site kind of like at that microsecond scale to deliver content or product results that are very specific to the user. And just kind of talking with brands, you know, a lot of brands where like having their team members check in other states are like, all right, what search result are in? Or like doing VPN, trying to like simulate where you're searching from. So there was like a real case use for it, and then it made me realize like Amazon at some point has to increase conversion rates on their site. Like they've already been doing that, and even in the future, Amazon has to get more lifetime value for their customers, right? Higher average order value. One way of doing that is very specific customization of content. So it's like delivery of what people sees on the website. So that basically, I like discovered that Amazon has all kinds of tech and tools already on their website that's like geolocation based. And then if you look at Amazon is hiring, actual like the headquarters hiring, it's like these positions that are like interesting, you know, algorithms, data, and kind of like regional based like technology. So it's kind of like foreshadowing that, all right, like regions are important. And so the first step was very easy. It's like, well, let's track, rank region, make it very simple, where you put your keyword, your ASIN, and then you could see how your states vary. And that was the first aha moment. It's like, oh my gosh, like the rank actually varies quite across states, and not just like one or two positions. Like you may be number 1 in California and you're like number 20 in some other state. So then it led to other questions. What does inventory to do with? Can you try to what's a good word? Manipulate it with marketing, or can you try to influence that rank? And then that led to other features, and I'm trying to understand this geo rank even better.
So that's amazing and fantastic that you brought that up. I really love that. For one, because now we know, if we know our position in, for example, California, that we are number 1 in California, that means we are super relevant in California. So we can actually run our Facebook ads to target people in California, right? And another thing that makes perfect sense is we used to have outside of Amazon, of course, on our own sites, some geo pages. And I'm not even sure if that is a correct term. That's something we used to call them. And we would make geo pages per state or per city sometimes. So, for example, if you are in Florida and you would land on my site, you could see a page that nobody else sees, right? And for example, years ago I had a site and it was directed to the Portuguese market, and every single city had their own. And we could even have something related to their soccer club, right? It was a football soccer club on that page, because that particular city, we know that their team, everybody was, to say the yellow team. And that week they had won 3-1 versus somebody else, right? And we put there congratulating them. So that makes it super unique. And just to prove your point that we would take advantage of that even before there was this type of technology. It was actually pretty simple. It didn't require too much technology. But if you know where the sales are coming from, and do you know what position we are for each keyword? Can I say Bluetooth speaker? Will I be able to see that I'm number 1 in Florida, but number 20 in Hawaii?
Yeah, any keyword for your competitors that's not connected to an Amazon account or like access account in any way is just kind of like stimulating search from any of those regions for whatever keyword it is, and then see that keyword rank, and then you see it over time as well. So this is the interesting part. At some point, you start, as you're measuring over time, you actually start seeing variability in the data. And what I mean by that is some regions are more volatile than others, mean there's like more fluctuations, or some brands and keywords are more volatile. It's a little bit less in my expertise, kind of like product keyword research, just because I'm not on that side, I'm more on marketing side. So it's something very interesting, but that certain products, certain keywords have much more fluctuation in rank across regions. So as a brand, when you're just like what keyword go after, or what product do I want to start sourcing, you have to figure out what strategy are you more comfortable with, the high volatility or low volatility. So some people, this may be analogous to like, all right, do I go after long tail keywords, or do I go after the high volume keywords that are going to be harder to rank? But once I do, I'm in there, right? Like, because it's like volume. Or the long tail, where like it's going to be easier to rank, but someone will be very easy because it's much lower volume. So the same thing with regions across the U.S. Like, if you think you're like ranked like number 5 somewhere, you're actually probably ranked number 5 in the, and then number 6 in a few states, number 7, number 10, number 20 in a bunch of states. So you have to go. So then you have to just think, what the volatility of, meaning like the variability of that range, because some brands, they're like ranked like number 1 and number 2. Like across like all of states for a popular keyword, and they're listed number 1. While another scenario, you look at a competitor, like they're number 1, so their average rank is 1, but their fluctuation is actually, they're all over the place. A bunch of times they're like barely ranked in the top 5. They just happen to have the better average than everyone else, so that's why they're just number 1. So this is going to tell you, like, do you need to be more aggressive or less aggressive? Like, are you like, how close are you? Like, if you're not 5 spot to get the top 3, are you like really far, or are you really close, even though you're still ranked number 5? So seeing that variability of regions is going to give you that insight on like what's your true rank, as opposed to kind of like the average rank or kind of like the swim rank across areas.
So I also heard that you can see on, I believe it's AMZ Jet, I can see how much of my inventory is stored in each different location. If that is true, now I know that, for example, if California is the best seller or the best location to sell a certain SKU, and it's running low, if I send in my inventory, Amazon's going to prioritize them with my inventory, or do I get them to send direct to where I want?
Yeah. You can see like inventory at the individual warehouse level. So it's just a map of US, and you know how much inventory is where. So then the next part is like what does that mean, and then how can we control that or not? And from that, we basically found out that the more inventory you have, the more sales you're gonna get, because like if because are you in 20 different warehouses or 75 or 100. So the more warehouses you're in, the closer you are to more customer areas. So that's kind of like the first part. But then what's the answer to that? Send more inventory? That gets expensive, right? It's one of the biggest problems to sellers of just sending more inventory. But it's going to make you start thinking more about, well, like the more inventory you have, the more places you're going to be. But seeing this map, there's going to be two parts. One, because the tool is like relatively new. So like one thing we haven't done is we want to show actual metrics on how strongly it correlates with sales. So you know exactly where some products have stronger correlations with sales than other products, like depending like how much inventory and where, and also some keywords that are associated to certain products or brands have a stronger relationship like with that inventory effect than others. So it's kind of like things where we're going to like make those metrics easily available. But the second part is like where you're doing the marketing. If you're running external traffic ads, whether it's Google or Facebook ads, and people are seeing it that are in states that are like far away, or you're like running out of inventory, then it's kind of like wasted it, right? Unless it's more of an audience building strategy. But if people are seeing the ad and they go on Amazon and that ship delivery time is like longer than the other states or other products, then you're like kind of, whether you're hurting your conversion rate or not, you're not efficient use of that ad spend. So knowing that is important. Like, do you just target everywhere if you're trying to scale, or if you want to be more careful with your budget, do you only go after certain regions? And then the part where you ship it in, this gets very interesting, because this is where Amazon sellers then like started getting creative, where like, all right, can I somehow control where I send inventory, and more importantly, where Amazon redistributes inventory, right? Because depending on your like shipping options and like fulfillment options, or like where you're creating the shipping label, like let's say you ship it to California, that's their distribution center, where then they send it out to their warehouses, like 75 warehouses or like cover depending units. But one thing we're seeing very interesting in that, this is why this is important, and maybe like even more important than I realized, but I think each brand should know this, that where is your inventory like biased, meaning like where does Amazon like to redistribute your inventory? Mm-hmm. And I clearly this where some brands, I'm like talking to the brand owner like about that they're saying, and their inventory be heavily on the West Coast. Like, yes, their inventory is in like all warehouses, but it's predominantly on the West Coast. For some brands, it's predominantly on the East Coast. So is because you sent it to California and Amazon didn't want to waste their own individual redistribution dollars of sending it to the other coast, because Amazon knows there's other products that are similar. They'll just them hire. Amazon will make money, so they don't care like which brands get the money. But like you're on the West Coast dominant. So do you need to send more inventory, or somehow something creative about how can you send the initial inventory to different regions to increase that, and maybe Amazon like keeps it on certain. So I think those are like good questions to ask. We don't have full answers. Like some brands are getting like really creative, doing like very interesting things, but like we need to start opening up these discussions to see like how that inventory is related to like rank of sales.
That's so interesting. You know how Google works? If we have a physical location in Google Maps, right? We'll tell Google, okay, I have a physical location at this address. They will send you actual letter, snail mail with a code to prove that you can receive mail at that address. And then your website will rank or not very easy, but a lot easier in that geographical location, because you actually have physical presence there. And we used to do that, you would buy or rent an address somewhere and get Google to send you a letter, and then they would redirect that letter to you. You get the code, enter it, and meanwhile, now I have offices all over the world, all right, when ranking. And I'm guessing in that case, warehousing would do the same thing, because if you don't have any product in the state of, let's say in California, if you don't have any products, more than likely you're not going to, I'm almost sure you're not going to be the number one search, right? Because Amazon cannot deliver your product.
And Amazon is probably going to like transfer inventory there anyway from the others, because Amazon knows California is like 15% of sales for the average brand. So good, but probably not as much if your was in like, or inventory was in, like Virginia or like, some other common warehouses that are like on the East Coast.
Yeah, most people that are not in the US as sellers or I mean, not most, but some that I know use the same trick that I use. And basically, we enter a postal code or area code that 90210. It's very easy to memorize because of that TV show years ago.
Yeah.
And I guess that takes you to Beverly Hills. And every time I want to do a search for certain products, of course, that's the area code that I'm going to see. So if you are in Texas, you're not going to see the same thing as me. And that's so fascinating that, I mean, the sellers know what to expect. Basically, it looks like Amazon is what Google was years ago. And everybody seems to be working in the same direction. And I'm guessing Walmart will be next. And everybody wants to do the same thing.
Yeah. I typically start geeking out about this, like with people that like know Google really well or have a lot of experience with Google. Because as I was like telling the story how I started AMZG, I just kind of thinking about like customization, website application. One of the things I noticed also is researching how Amazon has like the highest percentage of poaching Google employees compared to the other big companies like Facebook or like other like tech big companies that are also having Google employees. Amazon is one of the biggest. So, is it like rebuilding the Google algorithm, but kind of in the Amazon format? So it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, just years ago, Google started hiring every scientist that NASA had. So next thing you know, this is super, super interesting. There was an interview that camera crews went over to Google and they were interviewing guys. And there was a NASA scientist sitting there at a normal looking desk. And they interviewed him and said, so we actually, to be completely honest, we expected you to have a better office since you were a guy that you were a engineer at NASA. And his answer was, well, for me to get into NASA, there was 10 books that I had to, in college, that I had to study and know all those contents just to enter to NASA. He's like, 5 of the people that wrote those books were here. So he was nobody, right? Yeah. And now Amazon is doing the same. They're getting those brains into their business, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, which also is consistent with how Amazon is like dominating all of these like different industries and other categories, whether like Amazon Music and like all of this and like all of this other stuff. They're like getting into it because there's some master plan in there of aggregating all of that. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing for private and all of that, but it requires a lot of like very smart engineers of making the algorithm work. And now with Amazon sellers, it's kind of like things are changing every month really fast too, because now there's kind of depending what you're hearing too, where a lot more sellers are like experimenting with FBM, kind of like they're forced to, right? It's kind of like that's adapt, and then what if things are like stabilizing worldwide or not, or getting like worse, is then like on the other side is that how like our brands then gonna make sure that that's a important diversification strategy where like they're always going to need to do it, not just like things recover and it's like, oh yeah, back to normal, back to FBA and back to Amazon only. Like, do you need to start diversifying with Facebook traffic? Do you need to make sure you also have an FBM option? And then thinking, where is that FBM location? Like, where is that 3PL or the warehouse? Because then how fast can you get the product? Is regional ranking stronger for FBM or FBA? And how strong is that correlation between rank and sales? Depending if it's FBA, FBM, there's like all of these things that get really interesting that you have to start considering.
So do you know yet if I have a FBM listing, and of course I have 99,999 units available at my FBM, right? Do you know if that has any impact on the geolocation?
We know that the first part of what I was talking about where, and this starts becoming related to other factors. It's like, is someone searching from like mobile or desktop? Like, how many days delivery is it? So the first FBM, if you're, let's say it's a 3PL, they only have one warehouse. That's just their business. It's like a smaller 3PL company, and they're just in California. Well, and let's say you don't have FBA. So searching in New York, like why would Amazon rank you higher? It's not the FBA versus FBA enough where like the FBA Amazon warehouse in California versus FBM warehouse in California. That's a whole different discussion. Like, who does Amazon favor? But FBM, that's like across the entire country. This is where the other factors are more important now. Well, customers going to get the product in like 2, 3, or 4 days. Like sure, it's going to be quicker if it's like Amazon, but that delivery time, Amazon isn't going to rank you as high because there's some product that's a very similar product with similar reviews, similar price, or something is different, but they have a warehouse in New York that's FBM. So of course they're going to rank you higher. So it's easy to spot those patterns that distance becomes important, or like if you're inventory, like you're out of stock, but not just totally out of stock in the US. Now that's actually misleading. Now you have to look at, are you out of stock at the individual warehouse level, or are you temporarily out of stock in a certain like city? So for a few hours or a day, you're actually ahead of them in rank because you have more inventory, while Amazon is transferring inventory to them from other locations, or while they're shipping in more. So we know FBM like effects in that regard. But then in terms of like the software actually showing you metric, this is where like the software is still too new. Like we want to like release those metrics specifically showing you that for this keyword or this product, the volatility is higher for FBM, for example, or for these regions, volatility or like ranking impact is stronger. So make sure your FBM location for this keyword is in this region of the US versus this region. So it's kind of like easy to come up with those metrics. We just need to just like keep building those features and like keep analyzing more data.
Man, we could talk about this for forever. Yeah, this is so cool. Man, I think you're onto something. Your tools are completely different than anything else. And I know for a fact there's a big competitor in the SaaS business, one of the biggest SaaS companies on earth. Well, I don't know if there's any companies outside of Earth, but they're getting into the Amazon space. And there are tools being built right now, and I know that because I go on conference calls with them to help out with what sellers are looking for. But nobody that I know is building anything in your space. So, man, it's incredible. So, Zontracker and AMZ Jet, these are basically amzjet.com and zontracker.io. You have on on Zontracker, there's 3 plans, and one is audience, track, and then optimize. What are the differences?
Yeah. So this is where, so the main one is track, where like you're seeing just attribution, and the highest plan is where optimization. This is where like honestly I see usually more advanced brands having success with. That's where you're choosing like Amazon purchase as a pixel as an optimization conversion event, and you're starting like higher budget for it to work effectively. Sometimes it works like if you're spending less than like $500 per day, but usually you need to getting at higher budgets for that one. Like we're actually I'm like restructuring the whole pricing plan because like the goal I actually want to like merge certain features between Zontracker and AMZ Jet because there's strong links in there. Even though one is a distribution tool, one is like GeoRank, it's like insights. But the next level of what I see some brands doing is that they take geo data, and this is AMZ Jet, and then they see like, well, where do they run ads? So that's like attribution, or you need to know how to effectively run those ads. And we already started building some features where like with a couple of clicks, you can like automatically create a bunch of like ads and like optimization tests. So the next level is to make sure that it automatically targets certain regions. And again, that's like not that hard to do because we have that data, and like you can do that through the Facebook API. So it makes sense for the softwares to be combined. So by the time someone like watches the replay version of this, like maybe there's parts that are merged or the plans are different. But at the moment for AMZ, it's also the pricing is keyword based because for that like it's actually quite expensive. I think it's one of the reasons why software haven't done it because it's like we're just checking so many different regions as opposed to like here's one keyword rank. It's across many different areas. So for that, kind of have to pay based on keyword volume that you want to be searching to check the regional rank and other metrics.
Got it. And then that combo is the one where you can get it all. Is that correct?
Yeah. Zontracker combo is like just basically all of the Zontracker features and newer ones like we didn't even talk about where you can like integrate ManyChat into it. So whatever you're doing in ManyChat, that attribution will have higher chance of success because you're providing like ManyChat data back into the Facebook Ad Manager as well. So that's all for the Zontracker side, but that doesn't include like GeoRank. That's just a totally different website, different software.
Sweet. All right. And then for those of you that are listening, I can see here I have Zontracker.io open in front of me. And I'm not affiliate, you guys know I'm not affiliate to any of these tools. I'm just telling you that right now, ZT Combo is at 40% off. Yeah, is that correct?
Yeah. Well, it's like just getting all of the features because I realize the brands that are like doing like the maximum using features, the ones with success. I feel like playing around with one feature, then it's a little bit harder. Like you kind of play around and you're not committed enough to it. So I wanted to make it irresistible, where you just like get all of the features, so you have maximum benefit, and then give it a try. And this could like get overwhelming because you have to testing more, right? That's the common question I get with Facebook ads, but you just start testing more ads, more variety, and then see the data come in to like make better decisions later with your ad.
So basically, you get an account today. You put in your data, your information, and then it's going to connect you. It's going to ask you to connect to Facebook. Is that it? Do you have any other connections that's going to require?
So there's different. There's multiple integrations, and the more integrations you make, the more like data you'll basically push through the system. So like pretty much all of them are optional, but you connect the better. Like ManyChat, we have like a seller tools integration, and there's like all of the different ones, and we're kind of like building more. So the answer would be like the more you integrate, the more data we'll be able to push back into Facebook.
Awesome. Yev, man, besides Zontracker.io, amzjet.com, where else do you want people to look you up?
Facebook is definitely best. Maybe like LinkedIn, I'm not on there more as much, but just search for me on Facebook, and then Facebook group too. There's Zontracker is in the name. You should be able to find there. Questions, see what other brands Amazon sellers are doing over there, marketing for Amazon.
Awesome. Yev, man, we got to do this again. We got to stay in touch, and we'll do it when Zoom is performing a little better, because as you guys know, the entire world now is on Zoom, and they just did an update. So every now and then there's a little vibration on the quality, I suppose. But all good, all good. Yev, it was a pleasure having you here.
It was my pleasure. I enjoyed that. Thanks.
Thank you.